Hey guys, welcome back to Chit Chat with Chip. I feel like it's been a minute, but it's only been a week. But I thought I'd drop another video this time, and I'm going to be focusing on Locum because I have just gone back to Locuming again. Yeah, this might be a bit more for people that are thinking about Locuming, want to Locum, but don't really know if it's the right step for them. So I just thought maybe I'd give you some questions or some things to consider before you take your first step into considering Locum. So this is just what I have come across as I've been Locuming, and obviously I've not been Locuming for a long time. It's only been about, let's say, 6 months since I actually started. And also bearing in mind, my own opinion right now is based on me locuming only through a pandemic. I haven't done any locum outside of this COVID-19 pandemic, so I don't know if the situation would be slightly different if it wasn't a pandemic, but this is my own experience right now, and take that how you will. So yeah, welcome to my channel if you're new here, and if you've been here before, hey, thank you so much for coming back. I talk about anything to do with money, to do with career, to do with fashion, sewing, and to do with lifestyle in general. So I hope you enjoy that, and if you do, make sure that you like this video and make sure that you subscribe to my channel. So let's go right into it. I'm trying to do the whole 5-minute thing, so I'm gonna watch the time. I haven't got a time on me, but I'm gonna watch the time and hopefully keep it under 5-7 minutes. So yeah, things to think about. So number one is, why do you want to locum? Is it for more flexibility? Is it to have a bit more of a work-life balance? Is it something that you've been thinking about for a while? Is it something that you just want to try? Like, have you thought about why exactly you want to locum? I'm talking from a biomedical science perspective. I know that being a locum as a social worker or as a optician, or being a doctor, it might be slightly different to how you maybe acquire work, you get work as a biomedical scientist to those other professions. So that's something to think about. So when you see other YouTube videos with people from other professions, I've seen that the way that they get jobs might be slightly different to how a biomedical scientist might get jobs. So that's another thing to consider. And obviously my experience won't be the same as your experience. Question number two, how flexible are you in terms of the jobs that you are potentially wanting to get? Would you consider relocating? Would you consider moving away from where you're currently living? And also, do you have responsibilities? Do you have dependents? Do you have children? Do you have somebody that you care for? How easy is it going to be for you to locum? Because essentially one of the things that you have to be as a locum is to be flexible, because the job that you end up getting, or the jobs that you end up getting, might not necessarily be in the area that you're living in right now, or that specific area that you want to stay in. So that's something to really think about, because you will have to move, especially if you want to get the jobs that have better rates or the really good rates. Then you might have to go outside of, say, England if you want to get good rates, because a lot of times in England the rates are capped. So that's something to think about. Like, certain situations will make it easier or harder for you to be a locum. Sometimes the better jobs or the good jobs are the jobs that are slightly outside of where you're living. So if you're in a small town or a small city, more jobs might be open for you. If you go outside of that small city, you go to a bigger town or to a bigger city. And the reason I had to mention that it's been in a pandemic is because from a biomedical science perspective, we have been needed a lot as a profession. I don't really know about a lot of other professions. I know that doctors will be needed, biomedical scientists will be needed, potentially opticians, I don't really know, social workers, I don't really know, other professions, I don't really know, but that is something that you have to look into. And then something else to think about. So question number three is, have you thought about some of the benefits that you would be losing? So straight away for me, I know that if I'm off sick or I'm off work and I'm not in work for whatever reason, I will not be getting paid. Whereas if you're a permanent member of staff or you're employed staff, you know that if you're off sick for a certain amount of time, you will get paid for that. There's statutory sick pay, and that's something that you would have as an employed member of staff. But when you're off sick as a locum, that is not something that you will benefit from. And if you want to go on holiday, you won't get paid for that. Obviously there's other ways that you can do it with your agency where you do get your holiday pay accrued, but that's for another time. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. But right now I'm just giving you some ideas of what to think about before you jump into locuming. The other benefits that you might lose is maternity leave, sick pay, as I already said, holiday pay. Also, there is a high chance that you will be treated slightly differently to employed members of staff. Obviously you might be lucky that you might be working with people that are really nice, and that's not anything to worry about, but you might be essentially treated slightly differently if you're a locum. That's something to consider. Question number four is, you have to know, and I'm going to tell you this, some of the contracts or the lengths that you're in a certain position or in a job will vary. So some of them might be a month, some of them might be 2 months, some of them might be 3 months, some of them might be a fixed term, for example if you're covering a maternity, or some of them might be even longer. When you're applying for a job, a lot of that stuff will be specified, and it should be specified. And if you're not sure, I would always ask, because I like to know how long I'm going to be in a certain place for. Because if you're one of those people that likes planning planning things, you want to know what you're going to be doing at the end of that, or if you want to secure your next job after that, that is something that you want to know. So think about what you're looking for. There might be times, okay, it's probably very rare, and I haven't experienced this problem as I've started obviously 6 months in a pandemic. I haven't experienced this, but there might be times where you're out of work, where you haven't got any, for example, jobs. Like, I don't know what other professions will be like I said, but this is from a biomedical science perspective. There might be times where you're out of work, and so far it's been really good, and I'm so grateful for that. So that is another thing to consider. Think about what you would do if you're out of work. Do you have other options? Do you have money to fall back on? Do you have an emergency fund to fall back on? You know, I always talk about money, so it's important to have an emergency fund, and that is something that I would absolutely recommend before you start locuming or before you leave a permanent position. And then the fifth thing to think about or to consider is, have you thought about how it works financially? Do you understand how your tax will work, how you will pay your taxes? Do you understand how you will get paid when you're a locum? Would you go with an umbrella company? Would you go on the pay-as-you-earn system with your, sorry, this car is so cold right now. Would you go on the pay-as-you-earn system with your agency, or would you be a limited company? So that's a lot of things to consider, but the most thing that you want to do is to make sure that you're paying your taxes. I will talk about taxes and finances to do with locum in another video, because that's a whole different ball game and it's the ghetto, but we'll talk about that another time. When it comes to umbrella companies, there's a lot of things that you have to look out for. You want to be in the most, obviously, you want to obviously take home the most of money that you can take, but you also want to pay your taxes. Nobody wants a huge tax bill from HMRC at the end of the year. We're not here for that, and you don't want to be in a position where you're in a scam. So make sure that you're doing it correctly. There's probably some information out there, but I know that I really struggled when I was trying to find information to do with locuming in general and finances and taxes, pensions, etc, etc. So hopefully I can provide that kind of information on my channel. The sixth thing to think about is, what are you like with new environments? How adaptable are you? How are you with adapting to new systems? How are you with working with different people a lot of the time? How are you with having to be in inductions every time you start a new job, having to be in health and safety meetings and training every time you start a new job? It's a different workplace that you will be going to every time you get a new assignment, so you'll have to go through local principles and local protocols. So that's something to remember. Like, how adaptable are you to change? And if you're going to locum, you have to adapt. You're going to have to be open to change. You're going to have to be willing to learn new ways of working. You're going to have to be willing to work with a lot of different people. You have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to listen, because you are new and you are going to have to learn new ways of working, new systems. Things might be slightly different. That is what you're going to face when you start a new job, whenever you locum, point blank. Period. Question number 7, or the 7th thing to think about, is going to be my last one. Have you thought about a pension? How important is a pension to you? And if you go through an agency or an umbrella, your options might be different to, for example, if you were with a health board, for example, the NHS. If you go through the agency, they will potentially have their own pension scheme that they provide, which you can obviously join. Obviously, as you know, if you've ever worked with the NHS, there's an NHS pension, which obviously is such a good pension scheme to be in. But if you're locuming, that might not necessarily be an option. So that's something to think about. How important is it to you? Would you be willing to start up your own pension scheme? Would you be able to start up your own private pension? What options would you have if you joined an umbrella company? And also, if you're a limited company, then that is something that you definitely have to think about if a pension is really, really important to you, because that won't be given to you. That is something that you have to do for yourself and look for yourself. So is pension something that's really important to you? And that is something that I would look for or look into before you start your locum assignment. So I hope those questions give you some food for thought. And if locum is something that you want to do, I mean, I would say go for it, especially if you're young. And to be fair, if you're a little bit older as well, you've done your time, you've gone through the motions, you've gone the roller coasters, you've gone through a lot of your career, and you're just thinking of something a little bit more flexible, then yeah, I would recommend locum. Obviously, like I said, you have to be open to change and you have to be open to new ways of working. But if you're older and you've done your time, you're looking for some flexibility, I think locum is a good option. If you're young and you just want to travel, it gives you the option to travel, to find jobs in places that you wouldn't necessarily think about if you were just employed and in one place for basically the rest of your life. So it gives you that option. It gives you the opportunity to learn new experiences, to work with new machines, analyzers, equipment, obviously to meet new people, to meet people from different worlds. You get a lot of life experience from other people. You hear about other people's life stories. So for me, that's exactly why I'm doing it. There was a financial aspect to it as well. I'm meeting a heck of a lot of new people. I'm learning new ways of working in different labs. Some I like, some I don't. It is what it is. So many pros to it, but also some negatives to it depending on your situations. But if you wanted to locum, you're still young, the world is your oyster, I would say go for it. If you don't like it, it's not the end of the world, you can always find another job. But I always say, just a little top tip for me as a locum is never burn your bridges. That's all I'm going to say. Never burn your bridges. Be a good worker, be an efficient worker, and be a reliable worker, and I think you'll be fine. If you are thinking about it, good luck. I hope you enjoy it. I will bring you more videos to do with locum in the future, but for now I hope you enjoyed that. So good luck and see you on my next video.